Started so that we can have everybody in, if everybody's in here. No. Anyone wants to start? Like, no? So Ria, the first on the list.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay, so you have 2-3 minutes. What do you need?
Do you want to come down or stand here?
No.
Okay.
Okay. You need to. Always need the reception
perfect.
there.
I just want to bring mics. I feel like I always mess it up.
And the most embarrassing thing is that you don't know how to work.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so.
Is this okay? Do I have
to present and then open up for questions.
Okay, perfect.
Is the light okay or?
How are my angles? Okay. Absolutely do not do that. So my thing is called Nani, and it's kind of a private separate club. Oh, okay. Okay, so I chose to do like a venture versus like a personal business plan, and so the idea is called Nani. It's a private separate club with a social focus. So basically it's 15 to 20 people getting together at a private venue, and it's cooked by like a guest chef, and it's set in Toronto, and it's aimed at 20-somethings, like young professionals. The idea kind of came about because my sister is a couple years older. She's graduated from Western, she's working, and I kind of noticed how hard it was for her to meet new people, like beyond her existing friends and outside of work. And once you graduate from Western, like, I mean, we kind of take it for granted, but you're no longer around people your own age all the time. So I noticed that was kind of hard for her, and there's no real service out there that kind of does that without it being like dating or something like super formal. So this is kind of just like, the idea is to break bread, break the ice, just meet new people, and it's like one communal table, and it's aimed at like bringing people together around the same age range in Toronto. So the way it works is we'd have a website, and you would register by sending in your email, and then once you email us, we will send you back a questionnaire just kind of telling you about what we're doing, and then asking a couple questions about your occupation, your age, just to kind of get a feel for you. And then once you complete that and send it back to us, you're in our database. So when we host events, which I planned it being like 2 to 3 times a month, and they're like dinners or brunches, then you would get invited to one of those, and you can choose to decline, and you'd still be on our database if you choose to decline. Or if you say yes, you can RSVP for 1 extra person, so you don't show up to these things alone. And then you sign up, and then you pay right away, so that when you get there, there's no money exchanging hands. That kind of like makes it more intimate, and you also it minimizes cancellation because you've already signed up, so you have to come. So that's how it kind of worked. And then every event is themed, and we'd have local guest chefs doing it. And I talked to one of my friends, like, was a general manager at Momofuku in Toronto, so like I kind of spoke to him and got a feel for it, and he was saying that like a lot of young chefs don't have an opportunity to create their own menus and to do anything because they're working under someone else. So I mean, they'd be working for less money, but it's a way for them to kind of try out new ideas and like get a feel for it, and it's a good experience for them. So that was kind of the beauty of that. And what else? Oh yeah, just kind of like you leave your cell phone at the door. I want it to be a very like intimate, like face-to-face experience, because I find like nowadays when people are in an awkward situation or when they're meeting new people, they pull out their cell phone, and like that's not a way to meet new people, and I think we can go back to our roots. So that's kind of the idea. And it would be a side business. It's not really like profit focused, it's more just like a unique social venture. And there's a couple of these in Toronto, but they're priced way higher. The price mark for this would be like $50 to $100 per event. But yeah, a lot of them were like $250, and that's because they had like more intense chefs, and I think there's like 2 or 3 businesses doing this in Toronto. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. So thank you for listening. Questions?
What if like you have an event and it's like all of you show up?
Okay, well, yeah, we would hope to kind of like put it at a mix. So when we email out people to say we're having an event, and then it's like a first come first serve basis. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind. But it's also not a formalized like dating service. It's just a chance to meet new people. But ideally, you'd want a gender mix. Yeah, but yeah. So in that case, prior to the event, you'd kind of want to make sure that you'd establish that. So I mean, we say it's first come first serve, but maybe we've manipulated a bit so that there are some females there too. Yeah. Anything else?
What's the naming? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What's the naming?
Oh, Nani, it means grandma in Hindi, so it's kind of like back to roots, but it's also part of my last name, coincidentally, so that kind of worked out nicely.
Okay, grandmother's not gonna be there.
No, she won't be there, but you know, she's a pretty cool lady. But yeah, no, it's just kind of like a, you know, like old school vibe to it.
Okay, are you gonna filter attendance?
Filter attendance?
Yeah.
In terms of
you know who is gonna show up, and maybe one odd person is gonna screw up the whole meeting?
Well, there is the option to RSVP with a +1, and we can't really screen or like vet those people, but when we send out our invitations, you've already filled out a questionnaire, so we kind of have a bit of an idea about you. Obviously, people can lie about it, and that's the problem with running a social service. Like, you can't really screen that, but I mean, hopefully you're not getting, I don't know how we would deal with that actually. Hopefully just by like picking people based on our questionnaires that we feel like kind of would match up together. But I mean, if someone wants to come and start an argument or something, we're just gonna have to make sure that we can control that.
And the place, the location?
It would,
much of the cost is gonna be.
yeah, I wanted to do it at a private venue, partly for the intimate experience, but also to skirt like alcohol licensing laws. So because there's actually like a lot of regulation on that. So, but if you're having it in a private venue, you can kind of get around that for a limited number of guests. And so it's kind of like going to like a friend's dinner party. You don't really know anyone. You might know the host and you might bring a guest, but it's kind of, you just get to try it out. But there's a couple of these in Toronto and around the world. Like, people do this in their own private homes, and it seems to have worked out okay. Maybe we'd have security. So I don't know.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
Natalia. Natalia's with here. Aniela.
It's Ariella.
Ariella. Sorry.
How do you put this on? For my personal business plan, I just focused on my life instead of being a venture or making a business. And I thought that would be a really good idea, and it would be an opportunity to research and really think about what I wanted to do. And it would give me a better idea about the path that I need to take in order to get to the career that I want. So I chose to organize my life in the business plan method. So my problem that I chose to focus on is what is the best route that I can take to get to my ultimate goal of being an entertainment lawyer. And the solution in my plan outlines what I need to do in the next couple of years to get there. So it involves finishing my next 2 years at Western, writing my LSATs, and then going to law school and ultimately going to a firm. And it also outlines what I need to do in the summers. So I spoke about how during the summers I want to do things that will help me gain more experience in both the fields of media and law. So one of the things I want to do is go to New York and do a summer program at New York University that focuses on media in New York. And I also want to intern at a law firm, so both those things together would make me a good candidate to work at a law firm. And so for my customer validation, it was a little bit different. I didn't do a survey or anything since it's about me personally. So what I chose to do is I researched each of the 4 law schools that I'm interested in going to. And I had to see what the LSAT score that you need, the graduating average, whether you need an essay or what kinds of things you need to do to get admitted. So that was part 1 of my customer validation. Then I also called 5 different law firms that I'm interested in working in, and I had a conversation with them about what they recommend that I do to get there and what they look for in potential candidates that they hire. So I outlined each of the conversations that I had, and I was surprised to see how much information they were willing to give me, since I told them that I was working on a project and not that I was actually applying right now. And they were all really friendly and gave me a lot of helpful information. And then the last part of my customer validation was speaking to 2 students who graduated from Western and are now on their way to becoming lawyers. And I found the actual customer validation really helpful because it helped me get a better outlook on what exactly it is that I need to do and what kind of experiences they're looking for. And it made me see that it's not so much marks, like based on marks, as I thought it was, and that it's based on more experiences and things that make you different than everyone else. So overall, this project was actually very helpful. It also helped me see how much it's going to cost for me to do everything I want to do and where I'm going to get the money from. So although it's not so much of a business, it really helped put my life in perspective, and it got me to do research that I hadn't done before. So it was really helpful.
Questions for Ariela?
Yeah.
Well, when you do a personal business plan, especially if you can have done, one of the most difficult things is how to set yourself apart from the rest. So what's your value proposition in terms of how different are you from other people trying to do similar things?
Well, what I wrote for my unique value proposition was that since I'm applying for entertainment media, I wrote that already I'm in a media program, so I have a lot of media experience, but what really sets me apart is that I have a very multicultural background, so I speak 3 languages fluently. So that in itself sets me apart, and I wrote that it can help me expand their international markets.
Thank you. Sabrina, your turn.
Okay, oh, I guess I have to put this on. Good? Okay, so going back to a business model that's more of like a venture, mine is actually very similar to, sorry, your name was? Ria. Actually, it's very similar. What mine is also a social like connection service. I called it the Campus Compass. So instead of being for people that have just graduated high school, it's actually, or high school, sorry, university, it's actually students that are still in university. So what I thought like was sort of an issue with university in a certain sense was that during a student's time at university, although there's many ways to meet other students, including living in residence, joining clubs and teams, sororities and fraternities, and just partying at the downtown bars, that's a great way to meet people, and they're fun and beneficial, but sometimes more for certain people, whereas for others their setting might not be ideal, affordable, or available. So I figure that this service can change that. It's ultimately an introductory service that points people in the right direction to endless circles of friends. It's a free online network that gathers key information from the users, and then through their preferences through, again, sort of like a questionnaire type thing. And then based on that research, an algorithm will match them with compatible students and unite them at various locations and events. Each university and college could have their own network, and profits will generate from the surrounding local businesses, restaurants, coffee shops, sports facilities, concert halls, etc., which will become the destinations for where these students can get together and have sort of this social setting and form lifelong relationships. What I figure is that it's different from clubs and sports teams and sororities and all that because it can really play to a wide range of different activities. So like knitting and clubbing are completely different. Gaming and yoga, crafting or athletics, hiking, biking, baking, cooking, all that stuff. Since all these cities and towns offer services like various places, I figure that it's a great incentive for businesses in these areas to get on board, and it also brings this really ideal fresh market to their location rather than just like seeing a bus ad. And then for students, like I said, it's just a way to bring them together with different people that they haven't met in the traditional ways at the university setting. And that's basically my plan.
Questions for her?
Yeah.
So like when you're meeting up with people, are you meeting up with like one person or like a group of people?
It's a group of people. So it's sort of similar to yours in the sense that like you'd create this user profile on the website, you'd do the questionnaire, and that would be like a one-time thing. And then what it would do is kind of give you like push notifications for like events that were coming up that seem to play to your interests. And you can also like accept to go, and it's not like the difference is that you don't pay for it. You just go to these events, and again, you could bring friends too. But the goal is that they would generate enough people to like bring a group of people together. Like I did my customer validation, I called a couple different businesses, and one of them that I got pretty good feedback from was, for instance, the Loblaws Cooking School. They really want to target this like young market, and I thought it was a cool idea to have like a cooking class. And so if someone on their questionnaire answered something to do with how they enjoyed cooking or whatnot, that could be something that could be like offered to them, free service, they can go and attend, and hopefully it'd be a good group of people. Yeah.
How much does it cost?
It was free for the users, like to join, and then I had different price points for local businesses. Let me just double check that. It was a standard rate of $100 or $800 per year for a business, and then a premium rate of $1,200 per year, and then my goal was like the first year would be just London as kind of like a bubble like trial, and then it would branch out to all of Ontario, and then with branching out to all of Ontario, there could be provincial rate too, to the point where like if there was a Starbucks that wanted a sponsor, and they wanted a sponsor like not only in London, they have locations everywhere, so they could have like a provincial rate where they have their locations at all the sites. Yeah.
May I ask you something? The class, no, to the presenter. Who would use these services? You. Okay. Customer validation.
Yeah, I did a I did customer validation, but I also did user validation. Like I did a Survey Monkey, and I had university students like answer whether they would be interested in something along these lines. It's still kind of like, I mean, it's in the working. Like it's kind of difficult to explain too, because there's a lot of like variables to it, but yeah.
Okay, and then explain to me why you need, as a generation, this kind of services when you are more connected than ever. So I mean
are you asking me?
No, I mean everybody. When I went abroad for the first time, you would just meet people in the class.
Yeah.
Like normally, because local students would stick together, but you wouldn't have. I mean, I think that when I went away first time, I got email for the first time. So
yeah,
nobody was really into that.
Well, another reason I like thought of this idea was because like I'm in MIT, I'm in a media program, and like I'm in a social networking class, for example, and we talk about some of the flaws of like social networking and like Facebook and all these sites, how like they keep you online, and like those relationships that you're forming online aren't really as substantial. And I just thought, like, although this is an online, it's like initially online, and I think it takes you away from the technology in the long run, because it's not meeting through Facebook or just interacting through Facebook, but interacting like in a more like physical environment.
That's Annabelle's class?
Pardon?
That's Annabelle's class?
That's like the social networking class? Yeah, it's a MIT class. Yeah.
I was just going to say that in addition to that, I think you have to be more networked and you have to be reaching out more, because I feel like the world's generally expanded not only in terms of population, but also in terms of if you want to get the jobs that you want to get, you have to create your own network, and your network can't stay local. So there's more of that draw just as a generation to continue to reach out and expand as well.
I was gonna say, I think like social media says like what you were saying, it's just a very superficial connection, and like it's good if you're staying in touch with existing friends, but in order to establish like new friends, it's not really good for that. And I don't feel like you build and blossom relationships. So.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just read in university, business school is asking applicants, one of the things that they have to write an essay about is video essay or whatever form, is how would you imagine social relations in 10 years? And I guess that most people will have the tendency to think that we'll be much more connected in technological terms. But I wonder if that's really true, or it's going to become a professional medium, but you're going to have other kinds of social relationships apart, more traditional, or well, I was wondering about that too. How social relations are going to be in 5-10 years, when all these bubble of all these social networks on the web sort of get stable and it's not novelty anymore. And you get to these kind of conclusions that you get to a certain point in those connections anymore. Although at the same time they take so much of the hours of the day of any person. It's very superficial and it takes so much time to keep up with all that. Okay. Look, he's not here. Christina. Really?
I mean, I can. Mine's like literally the exact same as yours, but like not a lawyer and how I wanted to go to.
There are a couple of lawyers, so
Yeah.
we would like to compare.
Well, mine's like honestly it's the same. Like I had to calculate my GPA, went like looked at financials. I talked to a bunch of people who are already lawyers and businesses and how I would potentially get there, and then it's the same with the LSAT, what I need to get on there, and then applying and getting into where I want to go, and then eventually getting into work.
Okay. And the sector of law that we're gonna...
I would be like entertainment or a sport lawyer.
Why entertainment? It's funny?
Yeah, because I love media kind of things, and I'm in the media program, so.
You're also in the media program?
No, mine like I was more like I had entertainment, but I had sport as well, and I just I've been involved in sports at a high level, so and there's a background there that I think I just find it interesting. I enjoy that, so.
Nishan.
Yeah.
Ready?
Okay, this on?
Are you going to be an agent or working in contact with agents? Or? Laura, you are not off the hook. Nishan, okay, tell us.
Okay, so mine's a venture, not being a lawyer. So earlier...
How many ways of living your life are there?
Two.
Lawyer and two.
Those two. So we talked earlier in the year about solving problems on campus, and one of the two issues that I kind of brought up were, one, students being able to transport themselves around campus at their convenience, so not like going straight to the bus and waiting, but something that you could do yourself. And given that we are on a big campus, it sometimes is a bit tough. And the second problem is advertising on campus. So when local businesses and local companies and even other companies, they want to advertise, they have to go through the university, but even still, it's not very effective, advertisements that are on campus. So I came up with a solution that kind of takes these two problems and put them into one, and that is Green Shift. So Green Shift is a bicycle sharing program that would be on campus and is exclusive to students, and it provides ads on the bikes, and it also provides, you know, bikes for students to go around campus. And these would be located at various hotspots in and around the area, so like at residences, at the UCC. And so this was if it was being implemented at Western, at the UCC and at Weldon, I guess, like the various places that people generally gather around. So it would be most comparable to, like, you know, the bicycle sharing systems that you've already seen in Europe And I think there's even one in Toronto as well. So you guys would have seen, or at least heard of what I'm talking about. And so the logistics are like, usually you have to put in like your debit card or credit card. So here we already are given student cards with our information on them, with our identity on them and stuff. So you swipe that, you take it out, and you can ride to the next, hotspot. And this would serve as a way to make accountability to the user, the responsibility, it's your bike for that set amount of time. And so the business model would be, it would be a joint ventureship between GreenShift and whatever university they're at. And that's because GreenShift would provide the proprietary database information, software information that is needed for the reader, the card reader, but they would also provide obviously the bikes and hotspot, like the structure and stuff. And so, but the university would provide the actual advertising space, and they would provide the users. So a very important part, and so they would obviously be collecting revenue as well. So it's revenue not only for GreenShift, but for the university. The major competitive advantage that I see in GreenShift is for two, because for advertisers, you get effective advertising, and so effective and efficient advertising. So you see, like a student will see an advertisement on a bike over and over again because that bike is always in motion. So the number of hits kind of generated from that, the amount of impressions is a staggering amount compared to just like a poster on a wall. And then for users actually have a convenient way of going around campus. So like if I have class in 5 minutes, I know that there's a way to get there in 5 minutes, not a 15-minute walk and not like waiting for the bus. It's not under your power. So the major issues I see in GreenShift though are, one, the weather. Because, okay, like if we're implementing it at Western, we know that when it's cold, when it's icy and wet, nobody wants to go on a bike and ride their bike. So that is a major issue that could be solved, I guess, through like if we're going to talk about it being at Western, like snow tires and stuff like that, but that is really tough. So another way of doing it though is just moving on to a different university, like maybe in the States, maybe in Vancouver or something like that, where the weather is more temperamental. And because there are still big campus style universities all over the world, so this opportunity exists everywhere. Another major issue though is actual revenue. Revenue, because there will be a really high initial cost going in. The cost of the bikes, the structures, that is a huge cost. It's not very lean. So you have to get over that by getting in appropriate revenue sources. So I haven't really done any numbers for gotten any cost quotes and everything like that. So I wouldn't really say it's fair to say that we can't bring in enough revenue just yet. But at the same time, that is a big question mark. The benefits though, the benefits from GreenShift are that, well, for students, like I've already said, you have a convenient way to get around. For businesses, you have your advertising efficient and effective, but it also, it's a social venture in a sense where it does improve, like the bus systems, they won't be as congested, right? So if you've taken like the 2 or the 6 coming into campus like that, there won't be as many people on those buses, especially if there's hotspots located just outside the university. But also, I guess in the long term, will reduce car emissions because less people will be bringing their cars to campus and less people will be driving them. It also somewhat solves that parking issue. But yeah, I would say go GreenShift. It's good stuff. And that's it.
Another question is where exactly where you say the hotspots are.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't just consider this for Western only, but because we're talking about Western.
I'm just wondering just Western, so I'm trying to think of myself.
Yeah, so I mean, it's ideal for first years because they don't have cars, and I was in Essex in first year, and I remember still waiting for the buses because I was lazy. But even still, I would have loved to have a bike just so I can get to class on time. So for first years, it's a huge thing. For people outside, so obviously then again, at the first year residences, at the gym, at the UCC, maybe Taylor, in ATSI.
But wouldn't you also need them at the buildings that people are going now as well, so they could deposit them?
Oh, well, exactly. So no, well, that's where all these hotspots are. The hotspots have like a bike check-in system everywhere as well. So if you're taking it to, say I needed to come to this class from Essex, then I would take a bike from the Essex hotspot to the UCC hotspot, and then it's a 1-minute walk from UCC to Social Side.
Yeah, so the reason I'm asking that is for me, when I'm on campus, everything's pretty close, so I can walk to pretty much everything within 10 minutes. That was the good thing we came here. So I wouldn't actually use it on campus, but where I think I would use it is when, like, in the morning at 9 o'clock, I want to get on the bus, but there's like 500 people in front of me jumping on the bus, and I miss it because I'm a little bit late. So, like, where I wanted it, like, at those bus stops. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like, I think the idea is good. I just think it's, like, better to be outside of campus and not directly on the campus.
Oh no, I definitely think that's a good idea. I think that was.
Let me ask you something because
Yeah.
the logistic. Where are you coming from? How far this place?
So, like, I'm talking
We're talking about around
Oxford and one.
Yeah.
That's where I live. So, like, that bus stop is so busy all the time.
Exactly.
And
So.
it's like, I would love a bike right there so I could not use the bus.
But would you
And
do that in winter?
Yeah, I would.
The thing is, you can bike in the winter.
Yeah, I have to say that Montreal has a system
I
like this.
think-
Montreal is colder than.
Yeah, if they have this system implemented too, I feel like if it's working well too, there'd be like more like measures taken to have like salted sidewalks and like make sidewalks better
Yeah.
for that system.
And I think, like, the other part of it too, like, I have a bike, but it's just sitting in my basement. The reason why I don't take it out is because I don't want to take it out and then bring it back in and then take it back out. So I'd like to just get on the bike, leave it somewhere, get on another one, come home, leave it somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that stuff. So I definitely think there is
Yeah.
a market for that. It's just like where you're placing it.
No, I 100% agree. And because, like, I mean, in the business plan we wrote, I had initially like put it into steps because it wasn't going to be a very lean venture. I tried to like slim it down as much as possible. So step number 2 was going outside of campus. So I guess like Oxford, Warncliffe, and Richmond. Those are all huge spots where like people outside of first years, they can come in because that's where I see a major usage. Exactly what you said.
And then, oh, sorry.
No, yeah, go
I
on.
was just wondering, like, what do you know, like, how much a bike would cost?
See, that's the thing. I don't know exactly because I mean we are getting them like it's economies of scale sort of thing. So we're getting a mass order. So I don't know what you can negotiate down for rates. I mean I know what a bike costs at Sport Check, but like who knows exactly what you can get in terms of a mass order.
There must be cases already preparing.
Yeah,
There are so many.
and the thing is,
that have prepared. Mexico City also has one.
it's a huge bonus that this has already been done before in different cities. It's just that it hasn't been done in universities like to the extent that like I would want to. But because it's already been done, there's actual figures, costs, numbers. I mean, it is very easy to find all this information out and get an appropriate
For
estimate.
me too, like, I'd love to pay for a membership that costs me like $5 a month, but I only want to pay like $3 every time I go, because that makes the process longer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have to put in my credit card, I have to wait for it to read it, and then I have to go, you know what I mean? So, I guess the price point is really important too, especially
Yeah.
for those students.
And I mean, like, look, if revenue truly is an issue, there always is a way you can charge students. It's not something I really want to do. You can charge students like, you know, $1, I think, because you do have your student card. We can use that to like for a meal plan top up. It's easy to transfer that for bikes as well.
So what are you gonna do in the case like there's no bike lanes in London really?
Yeah.
If
So.
you're at the Richmond and Oxford stop, you're gonna probably be driven past like 100 cars, and there's not the best drivers in London. So
Stage 2 has its issues, yeah. So I mean, like as soon as you go outside of campus, yeah, because
what about bicycles, safety issues?
so using bikes on campus and like creating new bike roads and stuff, I guess the university could do that much more easily than outside of campus. Outside of campus does pose an issue because then you're looking at asking the city to change something, and we all know that takes a while. Even asking the university to change something takes a while. So there are delays in that need to be considered. As for safety issues, like it's kind of like, is there a sign right when you take your bike out saying you know accept all responsibility, all safety measures, whatever? I mean, that's
Also to wear a helmet.
yeah, maybe you'd have to wear a helmet, but that could decrease users as well. It's something that needs to be thought out with appropriate. I guess like even though we did do customer validation, it wasn't at the extent that I would want to appropriately make a business decision. So it's not something where like this would involve like a huge survey or like a huge thing that would see, okay, are helmets actually a big deterrent for people riding or using the service? Which one?
I wasn't sure if it was like a self-locking mechanism or if there's gonna be like a valet there to like.
I would doubt it's a valet. I would see it as a self-locking mechanism. It's possible to do and the places that already exist are all self-locking.
Yeah, there's like ones in Japan that go below the ground.
Really? See, I didn't know that. Okay. That seems a bit pricey though already. But I'm not shutting it down. Okay. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what would you do about like insurance and stuff, like in terms of if someone gets damaged on the
Well, see, I thought,
Bike gets way
I didn't think insurance, okay, the way I saw it was if someone gets hurt, the biggest issue isn't paying out insurance, because the way I saw it is like every student would have to when you take out a bike, you would see a sign that says you don't accept responsibility with the act of taking out a bike. So you're not like legally responsible, but I see it as a major publicity issue where a Western student got severely injured or died or was like run over by a bus. I mean, that is a huge issue that would need to be worked out, and I don't have a solution for that just yet, and it is a big problem.
It's not really the bike though, it's the person. Right? Like even Ryan and bikes as well. At the end of the day, like they're the one that ran into the car, or they're the one that got hit by the car because they did something stupid.
I mean, look, Western could say that, but I don't think that's the best PR measure as well, because it still reflects bad on the university. So that is something that.
I just don't know if it's the actual bike company that provided it, unless something happened to the bike that made them go like flying.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's the bike's fault, then that's Green Shift is in trouble. Did you have a question, or you again?
What's your price point on your bicycles? Just because like you don't want to order like too many for too cheap and then falling apart.
I mean, that is a difficult question, just because I would actually have to contact the companies and say, okay, what is your order size in, or do we customize that? How many do we want at each residence, sort of thing. It would depend on each residence. It would depend on if we're even in Western to begin with, given the weather issues. There's a lot of variables up in the air, but really this was about getting the concept down.
Are you going off of a similar like model from Vinci Bikes in Toronto?
Yeah.
Because like they have that where it's level court where it's a bike set up and you put your credit card in and you have a time.
Yeah, that's the one that I was referring to, the one in Toronto. Well, I did consider that, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to make the key thing about this is it's exclusive to students and it's a campus thing. And it's a way to go around campus, and it's for students off campus as well. But at the same time, I think it makes it much more tougher. Like these bicycle sharing systems, their big issue is like vandalism and bikes getting stolen. And I feel, and I mean, I did do this in the customer validation as well, but students, there's a lot more accountability and responsibility when you actually take out the bike that is your university's, because the punishment from your university could be huge.
I don't know if you should like university, an organization through the university. Like Vinci isn't through like you have tier rising, it's wide. They have accessibility, but it's not just students, but you can definitely get to the university through the different like portals that they have. So I guess like if you did want to, even like maybe you could still make it through just students, but maybe not through the university. So they come into liability issues, but you could make it. Yeah, you could put the stations maybe near the buses or right there.
Yeah.
So it is just directed for students, but if it is just through the university, like you run into issues with the liability issues.
I think, and then the other issue why I would want to expand it beyond, or why I would want to keep it students, is because it is a huge selling point for advertisers. Because it's like really, this is their key to getting into the student market, like specifically the university student market. I mean, they wouldn't want to, because I would imagine that if I did that and like kind of expand it to everyone, prices would go up for advertising. And would advertisers want to pay for watered down advertising? Like my competitive advantage is that it's efficient advertising directly aimed at students, and so it's like efficient advertising, right? Like the frequency of impressions like per student is very high compared to, you know, just regular Londoners if it's Western. But I would take that into consideration, definitely.
Just another thought too. Like I know I've like ran a golf and charity golf tournament, and we look for sponsors, and basically they advertise on each hole. And what I found with advertising is you're always trying to fight for dollars that have already been allocated somewhere else. So what you really have to do, and maybe I don't know if you're actually going to pursue this, but if you do, like you really have to show them where the value is in having this instead of having a billboard or having another advertisement on campus or whatever. So that's just another thought. If you're not going to be getting money that hasn't been allocated, you're going to be fighting for money
Yeah.
that has already been allocated.
Yeah, you're trying to split like someone's marketing budget in your favor. Yeah, I do understand. So it is competitive. Hopefully the value proposition and competitive advantage kind of sees you out that way. Anyone else?
In terms of logistics, the problem I see is at the same time the advantage that you have, that you have a large population, but very concentrated in a very small physical space. So imagine people trying to use the service out of Weldon or in one of those bus stops. How many bikes do you need there in order to satisfy all those people just wanting to use it from there? And I even have a problem of space. Where do you put them?
Yeah, I see. So like a major logistics issue, you can't have people just biking everywhere, and you can't have. I mean, yeah, I would imagine there to be like the university. You would enter into an agreement, but that agreement would also include the university accommodating you into making bike lanes or allocating space towards bike lanes and allocating enough bikes at a certain spot, but not too many, because like we're trying to reduce congestion in certain places. We don't want to create congestion in anywhere else. But yeah, that's just something else to consider.
Yeah, the parking lots is another place.
Yeah, I mean people could park their car and then hop on a bike and get to class.
The university?
No. This was something that was just kind of thought up of several weeks ago, but I don't know.
Any more questions? Oh, fine.
Okay.
Stay or go, it doesn't matter. Probably don't want to stay.
Oh, I feel bad now. They're making guilt trip me.
No.
Jesus look like you very bad.
Well, I'm not getting a date ever.
That's not your worst.
Okay, I'll just leave now. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Okay. So mine is identical to Christina's and Ariella's. Yeah. I did my project or my personal business plan on getting to law school. So my aim is to be in a joint JD MBA degree in the next 3 years. So be in my first year of my JD MBA. I looked at the problem I have to solve being what are my main objectives, what are my personal characteristics and personal passions, and why they would lead me to law school. So I consider myself very diligent, hardworking, I have a lot of perseverance, and I thought they'd be great characteristics to guide me into a law career and get me to law school. For my customer validation, I talked to 2 law firms in Toronto, Torrey's and McCarthy's, and they're leading business law firms in the international markets and in Toronto. They have offices in Toronto, Calgary, Montreal, London, England, New York, and I thought it'd be a great way to travel as well as pursue a career in law. I looked into my finances and I did some projected income statements, balance sheets, seeing where I would be in the next couple of years, and it's in the red. But I looked at it qualitatively and quantitatively. So through a cost-benefit analysis, I saw that the benefits outweigh the costs. So although I'll be in the red, I'll be increasing my intellectual capacity and be able to have a better career out of spending a little bit more money now and getting more out of it later on. Yeah, that's pretty much what I did for my assignment. I don't know where else to take this. Any questions?
Questions? Comments? What's your unique value proposition?
I don't speak 3 languages. I speak 1 language, English, not very well. And I just basically went into my personal passions of community service and the experiences I've had. I travel a lot. I've lived in several different countries, and I have a lot to bring to the plate. I'm generally charismatic and a people person, and talking to some of the people at law school, they said that being a people person or having people skills is what separates you from the technically advanced and sound. The rest of the people with their technical skills, it's all about who you are and what you bring to the plate. So, yeah.
Someone else mentioned the thing with the people skills. Do you also get that kind of questions from the law firms?
Yeah, when I talk to like organizations, yeah, they kind of ask like, I mean, everyone's coming in different degrees, so I mean, if you have a business degree, like I'm in a global development studies degree, so it'd be really different, but I think what Laura's saying is kind of what attributes you're bringing in, and yeah, I think they're like looking to see if you're a good people person, and I mean, it really depends what law you're also looking to go into, but I would really much use them.
That has to do with personal characteristics or what you have been studying?
Personal, like people skills is how you interact with people. When you walk into an interview, are you...
No, I know, but do they infer that from every single person, or do they connect that with this person study business or study physics or...
No, I think it depends on the school though.
Yeah.
Like some schools will
Candidate?
like some schools will look at your grade, so your GPA, your LSAT score, and then some personal, but depending on like the higher you get with how prestigious the school is, they'll look at just GPA and LSAT. So I mean,
you don't need to even talk in those cases.
Depending, unless you get an interview or depending on the school, I'd say, right?
Yeah, I looked into U of T and York, the Osgood School of Business, or Osgood Hall, and they look very 50-50. It's very 50% essays and who you are and your experience, and then 50% is your GPA and your LSAT scores. And I found that was pretty much across the board, but the more advanced school you want to go to, it's just the higher GPA you have to have, or the higher LSAT score. Generally, I found you have to have an A- to be considered. That was the average entrance. So it is very weighted 50-50 people skills or experience, who you are, community service.
Okay, great. How about other career paths? Do you also look for people's skills or marks or a bit of everything?
I know, like, when I talk to some of my friends, like, I'm also at MIT, and then I have friends that are doing, like, banking co-ops and things like that, so, like, they don't understand that what I'm doing in terms of media is a lot more about you as a person. So, for instance, when I go for an interview for a position in advertising or marketing, I'll never get asked for, like, a transcript of my grades. Whereas, like, a lot of my friends in finance and stuff, they'll get asked for, like, their marks in accounting and, like, all that type of stuff. So, no, for, like, some of the industries that are traditionally considered a little bit more creative, it's more about you as a person and how you come across and how articulate you are. Whereas there's other fields where they will actually look at your marks.
Specifically iBanking, I did that in the summer, and my boss handed down the job to me for picking the intern for next year, and I had to look at transcripts, and if there was anything below an A, it was into the garbage right away without even reading the cover page. So some industries like iBanking, finance world, corporate finance, it's very grades, GPA versus law, which is nicer. They're more 50-50. Yeah, maybe they're not nicer, but the students they're interviewing are.
I had a different experience. I'm actually in accounting, and when I interviewed with like public accounting firms, like yeah, they asked you a transcript, but it was all like behavioral-based questions, like no technical questions, and it's like an hour long interview, and like it's all like recruiting dinners, like who you are as a person. So
tech companies are also having that problem. That techies are not able to even sell what they are doing. So they have a lack of social skills or being able to communicate. We're being pushed more and more to try to build those skills into the programs, classes, and degrees and all that. That's why I was wondering what is that? Still just marks or something else?
Well, I can't remember which of the few, but two of the law schools that I researched, or I can't remember all of them, they look at what program you came from and they take that into account because some programs have different grade caps and some like getting a 70 in one program, it's like getting a 90 in another program, so they do take that into account also.
That was like with the US law schools, they take into account that Canadian schools sometimes do grade a little bit harsher than US law schools, so they bump your mark 10% immediately before even looking at your application.
I know also like I'm looking into consulting, and I know with like PricewaterhouseCoopers they want your grades, and that's like one step. It's like a filter to get rid of a lot of kids, and that filter like I would be kicked out because I'm not like an academic, I don't have the grades. But I talked to one of the former partners of PricewaterhouseCoopers, and she was actually one of the only female partners with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and she decided to leave the company. And when I talked to her, she straight up asked me, like, "Are you not going to student?" And I kind of like dropped my head, and I'm like, "I'm not." And like I explained like why, and she said that that's really good that you admitted to it, and then you told me why your grades aren't up. And she said like when I hire people, like I look at those things. Some employers, she said they don't, but like for me, I look at what you've done, and maybe I can connect why you don't have 90s in accounting or in finance or whatever. So for me, like that's what makes me say like I like all the experience things, and I don't really focus on school as much as I should. So like has been said, it's like it really depends on who you get as an employer.
I think on that note too, a big part is corporate culture, because even within different industries, you're going to get a lot of variance in terms of how those actual companies view themselves within their marketplace. So some, even like advertising agencies, I can speak to that because that's what I know, but they're very much traditionally based, where there's others that are known for experimentation, and they're the type that would be more willing to look at your past experiences and you kind of like as a person. And I know it's the same with like accounting firms as well and things like that. It depends on the corporate culture and whether that factors into their job interviews as well. So.
Okay. And what would you look at if you were recruiting or trying to get a partner or something like that?
Yeah, based on like some of the experiences I've had leading teams and stuff on campus and through various initiatives, I found the biggest thing is overall fit, kind of ethos overall. So what is the kind of core that drives those people, and how does it fit as a team? So for me, in those situations, I haven't really like, well, yeah, 80s, 90s. Like, it's more about who you are and what you are bringing to the table in terms of thought process and ideation and things like that. So it's kind of like about a better fit and the overall ethos of the team.
Okay, any more comments? Questions? No? So thank you all. Very good experience, and have a good weekend. See you on Tuesday.